Hello, my name is Hammam Mukhtar. I'm a software control specialist here at Bammeter. And in this video, I am going to be talking to you about the PointMax I/O. We're going to discuss what's new, some of the new features and capabilities, as well as take a closer look at the hardware. So let's jump right in. PointMax is the next generation Point I/O, and it was released back in October of 2025. And part of the release was to modernize the existing platform, but also add more features and functionalities to it. So the biggest differences between PointMax and Point I/O is form factor, and that comes into two forms, I/O density, as well as just the overall size of the Ethernet adapter and the modules themselves. So the second thing is going to be speed. With PointMax, we get gigabit Ethernet speed as well as backplane compared to the 100 meg of that Point I/O. We also see the modernization and the simplification all around as well, from the looks as well as the modules themselves, the terminal blocks, and the design all around. I mentioned the high density discrete cards, but not only that, we got another great addition, which is the universal card. It comes in 8 channels. It can be fast or standard, 2 variants, and it can be configured as input or output at a channel level. So this is a game changer for those small applications where you have a few input points and a few output points that doesn't justify having 2 separate cards. So now in one card, you can bring both inputs and outputs. And it also features some sustainability features, like the ability of turning all the LEDs off when the device is not being used or it's not attended. You can tie it to a panel. So once that panel door opens, the lights comes on. Once the panel door closes, all the blinking lights will shut off. So this makes it much more competitive in the I/O platform realm. So in the first release, we got about 90% of what Point I/O covers, and this goes for the standard modules like the discrete and the analog modules, as well as the safety. We also got some of the specialty modules, and when talking about safety, we got pretty much the majority with the exception of the analog, the safety analog, with the exception also of the AC cards. That should be part of the second release, which should cover the remaining 10%. Another sweet thing with PointMax is that we got an XT variant. So not only the standard, the XT is, an enhanced conformally coded option. So the PointMax Ethernet adapter will support up to 32 modules of any combination, and that's a hard limit. After the first 16 modules, you would need to add an expansion power supply, as you can see here in the middle of the screen, or the middle of the image. After the expansion power supply, then you can add the remaining 16. And from a communication standpoint, we also got an NFC support feature, and I'm going to showcase that here when we look at the hardware. But this is going to be for product registration, setting the IP address out of the box. Since NFC doesn't really require that much power, you can use the NFC functionality with the unit being powered down. It requires the Device Tools app, which is free in the App Store for both Android and iPhones. The I/O modules also support removal and insertion under power. So as you're going to see, this is a 3-piece architecture design. So we have the terminal block itself, we have the module, and we have the base. The module itself is hot swappable, the base is not. And the terminal block does not need to be removed fully with the module as you're swapping it and changing it. So there will be some accessories released here soon that would allow for wire management, as well as color markers for each independent card, just to allow much easier visual aid for wiring and terminating the connections. Now, the last thing I want you to keep in mind here is that the PointMax is the replacement for Point I/O. However, it is not a direct replacement. So PointMax supports the new controllers, the 5580 Control Logics and the 5380 Compact Logics, as well as the L9, of course, version 36 or later. So if you have any older controller like an L7 or a 1769, being a 5370 Compact Logics, then you will need to use Point I/O as of today. It's still an active product, it's still supported, you can purchase it, but for those new applications and new installations, we're always going to recommend for you to go with PointMax. This is one thing I wanted to highlight really quickly before we look at the hardware a little closer, is the base itself. So there's a standard base and there's a base with SA power feed. So that base with SA power feed, the easiest way to think about it is a replacement for that FPD module in the Point I/O. So now let's take a look at how mod power and SA power work with the PointMax. So as you can see here in this image, the SA power feed is only going to work for 24 volts DC. So unlike the 5069s or the Point I/O, where you can use the FPD to establish a new power bus, being AC or DC, PointMax is solely 24 volts DC in the backplane. Anything other than that would need to be sourced to the card directly. The backplane supports up to 10 amps. So if you have, let's say for example, you have 5 output cards and you hit your amperage maximum by the 5th card. So you still ways out from the 16, so you can't add an expansion power supply. What do? So that's where you use the SA power feed. You add the base with the 6th card and you start a new SA power bus for anything after that. So let's take a closer look at the hardware, and I'd like to start with the Ethernet adapter. So the Ethernet adapter is the only one out of all of the modules, or call it the PointMax components, that will come with its power terminal block. And as you can see, we have dual Ethernet ports that are gigabit, supports DLR and PRP. And to change between the different network modes, PRP and DLR, you lift this vertical lift cover and you get 3 dials. The first dial is the special one, and as you can see, it has 2 sets of numbers. So the first one on the right hand side is, if you choose any of the numbers on the right hand side, you'll configure it to DLR. If you choose any of the numbers on the left hand side, you will set it to PRP. The last 2 dials, nothing special about them. These are just to control, of course, this is going to be the last octet of that IP address. So now let's jump in and take a closer look at the NFC functionality. So to start, I am going to launch my Device Tools app. And as you can see here in the first screen, you have multiple options. So scan NFC tag, or scan the QR code, set an IP address, and register products. The Ask AI Assistant is not functional as of today for the PointMax, but that should be an upcoming release here soon. So let's start with scanning the NFC tag. I'm just going to tap the device. And as you can see right now, it will tell me exactly what the IP address set in the unit. But if it's fresh out of the box, you can configure the IP address by just clicking on Configure IP Address, set the dials to 999. And here it would allow you to select static DHCP, configure the IP address, and the rest of the information. A sweet functionality with setting the IP address to the Device Tools app is that it'll allow you to incrementally assign IP addresses. So if you have multiple of these units underpowered, you can enable this function here. Of course, if there's some sort of scheme to the IP address that you'd like to assign to each one of them, and you hit increment IP address by the value that you want. Once you scan the first one, it's going to set it to the main IP address that you specified, and the remaining, as you keep scanning through the rest, it will just increment the IP address. So the same thing can be done for product registration. So I already registered this one, as you can see it listed here, but you can add a product, and you can do that by either scanning the QR code on the unit or tapping the NFC. The assigned device location is a really sweet feature. So if you have a large facility or a large amount of these units, and you would like to keep an account for where each one of them is used, you can assign a device location. You can take a picture, add some descriptions, and once you save it, it will be added to your profile here under My Devices. So that will do it for the Device Tools app. Let's go back and take a closer look at the remaining I/O modules. So now let's take a look at the 3-piece architecture of the PointMax. So as you can see here, we have the terminal block, and it's a simple pull down and pull out. Terminal block is out. Second piece is going to be the module itself. You have this little raised part here, just push down and pull out. Now that's your module. And then we have the active base. So once again, the active base is not hot swappable. So once you put that in, that's going to be locked in. And the module itself is hot swappable. I'm going to clip that back in there. Put the terminal block in, and let's look at the high density cards. So we have our output, and I guess this is a perfect reminder here too. If you look at the top here, we have these little lock levers. If you lock it to the left hand side, you're connecting all of the cards to the ones to the left of it. So if I like this one here, and this is great if you're moving, like in my case here, you have a large amount of modules that you want to move around instead of them falling apart and getting all wiggly. You can just lock each one of them to the one on the left hand side, and then you get a little bit more stable and easily mounted on a DIN rail. So now looking at this high density card, you're probably already thinking like, okay, wiring this is going to be a nightmare. I have all of these out points or voltage points, and I only have 2 commons. So how is that going to work out? Do I need terminal blocks? Well, we have these MBPTM cards that would allow you to increase your either voltage or common points. And it has two groups, and they are isolated, so you can have one group to be voltage, one group to be common. And they will slide right to the left-hand side or to the right-hand side of the module. The IB16 is the only card that would allow you to put 2 to the right-hand side of it. The OB16 would allow you to put 1, or any other card would allow you to put 1. So just keep that one in mind. So this is the universal card that is configurable per channel for input or output, and it's an 8-channel card, as you can see here in the diagram. And all the modules, by the way, will come with the wiring diagram printed to the left-hand side. And it will also tell you what terminal blocks that are supported for this module. Makes it much simpler for speccing. So back to the universal card, it's 8 channels, as I mentioned, and the fast card just gives you more functionalities like PWM output or counter input compared to the standard one. And at the bottom of this unit is the SA power feed base. So let's get to that and compare it with the standard base. So you can see here, the SA power feed has this black piece, comes with a connector, and it doesn't have pins to the left-hand side, only to the right-hand side, and that's because it's establishing a new base or new bus for the SA power. So here's a closer look of the standard base versus the SA power feed. You can see here, left-hand side, the major difference is going to be this black piece and these pins on the left-hand side. Last thing to highlight on the bases is each one of them will have this vertical lift marker holder. It allows you to put markers on here. You can lower it, you can raise it, and it sits right behind this locking tab. This will do it for this video. And if you have any more questions or would like to hear more about PointMax, please reach out to your local account specialist. And thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.